Anyway, so we're returning to the topic that we've been learning about for the last previous 4 days of this week, and it's a speech that was given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe at the Shluchim convention, the convention of his emissaries in the world. There's several thousand, and now there's like, I don't know, 8,000, something like that. Yeah, those are just the ones that come. There's a lot of them that don't arrive. And the Rebbe's, you'll see the Rebbe gives a very amazing message in the end to all these shluchim. And usually this was like the last shluchim convention, the last convention of his representatives. After this, he had a stroke that made it impossible for him to speak. So, I mean, certainly the Rebbe somehow or other must have known that this was going to be the last. So this was like the big message, the how do you say, the final pep talk to all of the shluchim. So you figure, usually what you should say is, you got to go, guys. The whole thing depends on you. Only you can do it, right? The work is just beginning, and now only you can do it. What does, in fact, the Rebbe say? We'll see. We'll get to the end. The Rebbe said the work is already done. It's already done. And everyone is a shliach, not just you. Not just you. You're not the only ones. Every single Jew is a shliach. You're nothing special, right? Every Jew is special. And what about to bring Moshiach? Moshiach is basically already here. We just have to reveal it together, right? And so it's a very strange message that the Rebbe gave to all these emissaries. But on the other hand, it's a very amazing message the Rebbe is giving to us. And that we also are emissaries, and that there's some sort of a work we have to do in order to make this world perfect, because there's a lot of trouble in the world. There's a lot of pain and frustration and heartbreak in the world. There is. And Mashiach will put a stop to it. And it seems that it's a very easy thing. I remember, I'm just giving you an example. I don't know if this is a good example, but I remember when I was young, there was this terrible disease called polio. And kids would get this disease called polio, and they had to live their whole lives in a what is it, in an iron, what is it called, a pressure chamber. What they had, an iron lung, they called it. And then somebody just developed a simple sort of a shot, and it just cured the whole business. Right? It cured the whole thing. They had a lot of problems with the shot also, but nevertheless, it cured. And then somebody said, I got something even better. You just take a pill or something like that, and that cures the whole thing. And basically, it did. It just cured the whole thing. Once in a while, it pops up somewhere, in Africa or someplace where they don't do it. But generally speaking, so it's a little thing that brought a tremendous cure to the world. The Rebbe is saying the same thing. We got a tremendous disease, and the disease is called exile. And and it's almost cured. Oh, that little tiny thing you have to do to cure. And the Rebbe is going to talk about it, what it is. But nevertheless, the Rebbe says that's the idea of Mashiach. Mashiach is going to come and change the whole world, and the Rebbe is the Mashiach. He's the one that's changing the world. And the Rebbe is saying that the little pill we have to take to fix it is simply education, to take the messages that he's giving to heart. That should activate us. That's the idea, that activate us to what? To be an emissary of God. Because the Mashiach himself is going to be an emissary. And the whole idea of the Torah is Moses was an emissary of God. He was a representative, a proxy of God. And he made all the Jews proxies of God. And the Rebbe is saying that I am a proxy of God. Mashiach is a proxy of God. And all of you shluchim are proxies of God. And that every Jew has to be a proxy of God, of the creator of the universe. So that's what it means. That's what it means. It's known that every single Jew is as a level of motion. Like we said before, that Moses was a teacher, and the level of the Mashiach. Every Jew. So because every Jew has inside of him a little Moses, and every Jew has inside of him a little Mashiach. Moving, so it's understood that in each and every Jew, there is something like the two things we said before. What are the two things we said before? Torah, to understand godliness, to think about God as much as possible, to be aware and excited, etc., about God. And then there's also the Mashiach. Mashiach is a king, and he brings us to do things which are above our understanding, are above our understanding. So the Torah, so to speak, makes you an individual. Like Eliezer, he had to be an individual. He had to make his own decisions. He had to think of his own thing. He had to make his own understanding, an individual. On the other hand, he was totally surrendered to the one he was not an individual, totally harmonious to God. Every Jew has these two aspects. I mean, it just keeps popping into my mind. So that it's not that difficult to understand. I mean, if you've ever been to a concert, so you see that there's all the musicians that are sitting in the orchestra. Usually, they're very expert. Usually, they're expert in it, so they have to really work and practice, and they have talent, right, to play their individual instruments. And every instrument is different. Even if it's like 5 violins, but you play the first violin, second violin, a different play. Everyone has their own unique purpose. But on the other hand, when they're playing, they're not unique anymore. They're just one with the music. So they, so to speak, lose their identity. When they're playing, you can't really hear what's the oboe playing and you have to listen to it. If you listen to it, oh, I see what then this is the bassoon is playing this, the oboe is playing this, the first violin is this, but you have to really listen. But if you don't listen, all you hear is just one beautiful piece of music. The same thing is with every single Jew. Every single Jew on one hand has to be an individual performer. And on the other hand, we have to be totally surrendered to the music, to the purpose. That's Moses making you individual, learning the Torah. And Mashiach is the thing of being totally harmonious, losing yourself in the bigger purpose. So every Jew has these two things. Every single Jew is a shliach, an emissary of God. Right? Moses, that's what Moses said. Shalach na bayad shalach. God, I am your emissary. But Mashiach is going to be your really emissary. Every Jew is an emissary in these two ways. Namely, l'shamash et kono, to serve God. God is creating us. And the general purpose, the general theme of our mission is lehi'ir ala, or it's to shine up the world, lehi'ir et olam, to illuminate the world with the light of holiness and the light of godliness. Educate the world. And this, what happens when you educate someone? You just bring out the potential that's in him, right? You take a child that's who knows what, a savage, living in the jungles, eating ants or whatever they are, right? And you take him, you start to educate him, and suddenly he starts to realize, well, I can build nice houses, I can cure these diseases. Instead of people living, until they're 30 years old, they can now live until they're 80 years old. And they can be happier. You have the music, you have art, you can appreciate life, right? You have the sports, you can have all the things you never dreamed of before, right? New ways to appreciate each other. You have transportation, you can unify people, you can go from one place to another. Telephones, you can talk to your grandmother that's 50 miles away, right? Things that they didn't have before. It just brings out the potential that's inside them. So in this, generally, there's two ways. One way is like it says, like the sun and the moon. The sun and the moon are called the two big lights. Me'ora gadol, me'ora katan, the big illuminator and the small illuminator. How to illuminate the world. Like it says that the olam natan bilibo, the world was put into the heart of each and every Jew. That every single Jew, mishtakfim, is reflects everything in the world. Every Jew is a microcosm of the whole world. Avodato lashpia, and every single Jew, therefore, has to do two things: as a mashpia, to illuminate the world, as like the sun in the sky, and vadasam makabel, and you also have to be a receiver like the moon. All you days by means of this is also you shine up the world with what's called a returning light. Like it says, Talmidai yoter mikulam. When you come to educate the world, the teacher that educates the pupil, if he's a genuine teacher, he receives more from the pupils than the pupils receive from him. The pupils sometimes they ask questions, and the teacher, ooh, he didn't understand this. Right? Understand? He has to look into things more deeply, more genuinely. He has to bring it down to earth. Teacher. The same thing with us. By us giving over to others Torah and commandments, as we also receive from them humility, we receive love, how to appreciate others, patience, right? Genuineness. It could be that I'm a big genius and I know the whole Torah, but I'm a machine. I'm a robot. I'm inhuman. Right? My only thing is I wanted them to learn the Torah, and that's it. They learn the Torah. I don't care about them, their personal life. Leave it out of it. I want you to understand the Gomorrah. I want you to understand this Mimer. I want you to understand this, whatever, the Kabbalah. You understand it? That's it. You're right. Leave your humanness at home. That a teacher can fall into that trap. When he teaches pupils, suddenly he starts to realize that maybe there's something to learn from them that he can't teach them. Humanness, genuineness, patience, right? When he's teaching, he's the boss. All of a sudden, he has to be, right? He has to hold himself back a little bit. Maybe he realizes he made a mistake. So therefore, a teacher is both things, like the sun he gives, and like the moon he receives. And there is in this what there isn't in this. But pratios, and especially Eilish, Nei, and Yanim, these are two things that have to be in a shliach. Number one, you have to be totally surrendered to the one who's sending you, like the moon. And on the other hand, you have to be something on yourself. You have to shine. You have to be bardat. You have to have your own opinions. You also have to work on yourself. Your own mind. You have to be a separate entity, like Eliezer. He was totally devoted to Abraham, but Abraham said there's some things you're going to have to decide on your own. You're going to have to call the shots sometimes. How we should do his shlichos to shine up the world. And this, that Moses and the Moshiach. So Moses is the idea of giving, and Moshiach is, so to speak, the idea of receiving. Because they are unified, in every single Jew. Moses was the first redeemer, and Moses will be the last redeemer. He'll take all the Jews out. So Nimsha, it says the main thing of Mashiach is going to be this tremendous level of humility. It says even more than Moses. Both Mashiach and Moses had both things. Moses was a teacher, but he was also a king. And Mashiach certainly is going to be a teacher, but mainly he's a king. So Moses was mainly a teacher, and Mashiach is mainly a king. But both of them had both. And that's what we also have to have on ourselves. We're here to fix up the world. On one hand, we have to do it in our own individual way. But on the other hand, we have to be connected constantly to the Rebbe, who's the one that's sending us, right? Nimshach, man, like Eliezer, he was totally devoted to Abraham to do. So therefore, when we do this, we draw down also in every Jew that we come in contact with. And that Jew we talk to, he becomes an emissary. And he also has these two things. Yeshlom, we can say, this is also hinted in the word Shemesh, sun, the sun in the sky, Shemesh. The word Shemesh has two opposite meanings. The word Shemesh means the sun in the sky. Me'ira, it's an illuminator. It illuminates, warms up the world. But the word Shemesh in Hebrew, the word Shamash is a servant. A Shamash is a servant. Lashon Shimush. Habito, that he's totally surrendered to the one who is sending him. I was created only. It says in the end of the Mishnahs in Mishnahs Kedushin, I was created only to serve my Creator. I was only created to serve my Creator. In other words, I have no existence. The only reason I am created is to serve my Creator. One way is I was created. I am created. Why am I created? I have a purpose to serve my Creator. And the other one is I was not created. I don't really exist. How do I exist? Serving my Creator. That brings me into existence. In other words, you realize that your whole existence depends on you doing something. You have to accomplish something in the world. What are you supposed to accomplish? You have to be an individual. What are you supposed to accomplish? What your boss wants. So you're not separate. You're connected to the boss. And like we said before, that the power we have in order to be an emissary in general, this comes from Hashlichus, the first time there was this thing of an emissary in the Torah, when Abraham sent Eliezer. Abraham sent Eliezer to make the first wedding match between Yitzchak and Rivka. That's the source of our ability to be a shliach, to be an emissary, to be a proxy of God, to be a proxy of the Rebbe, to get things done in the world, what they're supposed to be done. Where do we get the power? From what Abraham sent Eliezer. So therefore, it's understood, Shekashem, just like the first shlichus, that this first mission that Abraham gave, he was the one who sent, and he gave everything that he had to Eliezer, Hoyel, since the Zen Nogea Lamiloya Shlichos, because this is connected to the mission, Bishleimuto, that it can be done completely. Nothing was missing. Shekol Pratim, that every detail, the inyanim, and every aspect of the job that Eliezer had to do, Yed Chadurim should be permeated with this one general purpose of unifying what we said, Ma and Ban, the creator and the creation. The marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. Kamokin, similarly, in almost every shlichus of a Jew to serve his master, to serve God, Umakabel, God gives him, so to speak, like Abraham gave to Eliezer. So God is giving to each one of us, Kol Asher Lo, everything God has. From the one who's sending him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we are all emissaries of God. And just like Eliezer was an emissary of Abraham, and Abraham gave him everything that he had, so God is giving each one of us everything he has. Ad koach atzmuto, God's essence and his very being. We have to believe in it. We have to wake it up, awaken it. This includes everything that God has, he gives to each and every one of us. Kadei, in order to fall at the yichud shel neshama, to bring about the unity of the soul and the body of a Jew and this physical world, but often in a way that Kol Pratim, every detail, and every detail of every detail in your service of God, in the service of the Jewish people, Naasem, become Chadurim, permeated in a revealed way, what of Mashiach. It should be that's all we're thinking about, that's all we're interested in, that's all of our goal, that's all of our purpose, just how to do it better. Then the Tosef Yoter is added up even more in our generation, especially that our generation has a new thing, a new aspect of this being an emissary. What that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Kavod Chodesh Morichami Admor, the previous Rebbe, which the Rebbe was always saying that he is just a continuation of the previous Rebbe. The leader of our generation, Mina, he has appointed, previous Rebbe, he appointed. Let's have another picture of the previous Rebbe, just so we have another, again, picture of who we're talking about. 1 second. Yosef, here we go. I know you've all seen this, but we'll see it again. Here we go. Here's the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, right? Beautiful, beautiful. 7 there. Previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. We are all emissaries of him. The Rebbe said, I'm just taking, he passed away in 1950, but he didn't really pass away. I mean, he's really, like they say, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayom. So, and we are all emissaries of him. The Rebbe said, I'm just here to just carry out the work, continue the work that he did, to finish it, the work that he said. So he said, therefore, each one of us that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he's the leader of our generation, he appointed every Jew in this generation, our generation, that every Jew is now an emissary to spread out Torah and Judaism and spreading out the teachings of Hasidut outward until we bring the total and complete future redemption. I think it has to be pointed out again that the Rebbes of Chabad are not just great rabbis. They're not just, unique. They have their unique approach to Judaism and to learning the Torah. And they're just another, opinion in the Torah, which they're valid. I mean, all the opinions in the Torah, if they're a God-fearing rabbi, so it's a valid opinion, right? And so we have Rashi, we have Rabbeinu Tam, we have all the great scholars of our generation, and the Rebbe is one of them. He's, you can't. That certainly is true, but that's not sufficient. The Rebbe is the Moshiach. Moshiach is a person that comes to change the whole entire world, not just his individual group of Chabad, and not just all the religious Jews that believe in Torah. He's going to give some new idea of how to learn Torah. All the Jewish people, to bring all of the Jewish people to realize who they are. And when they do that, all the Jewish people will want to do the commandments. All the Jewish people will want to do the Torah. All the Jewish people will want to do what God wants. And when the world sees that, then the world will also want to do what God wants. Non-Jews are not fools. They'll see what is right, they'll see what is good, and they'll want to do what God wants. That's the 7 Noahide commandments. So that's the job of the Rebbe, is to put the whole world in a totally different, a different dimension of truth, a totally new dimension of health, of love, of appreciation. That's what the Rebbe wants to do. The Rebbe is not just a great Jewish leader. That's true. The Rebbe is the leader. He's God's representative of the world, and he wants to make it obvious to every Jew that every Jew is God's representative in the world. And when that happens, every human being will be God's heaven's representative in the world. The Jews to do this 613 commandments of the Torah, and the non-Jews to do the 7 Noahide commandments to make this world a good place. So what the Rebbe writes, the teachings of Hasidut, are not just another facet of Judaism, another angle of Judaism. It's the essence of Judaism to bring Mashiach. So that's the teachings of Hasidut. I advise you to go to your local Chabad house and ask them, what is it? Let me see a book. It's translated into almost every language, the teachings of Hasidut. You can look online. Right? Online. Maimuri Hasidut of Chabad, teachings of Chabad. And on all this, Nitosef Yoter, there is added more, especially in our generation, a big novelty of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that spreading out Torah and that spreading out the ideas of Hasidut to bring totally the redemption of the world, that all mankind will see and feel the Creator. And as we see actually, that now, says the Rebbe, this is 1992 or 1991, that now it is easier to explain to a Jew, even a Jew which previously was not in any way, in a revealed way, even relevant to anything in Judaism. Now we can see that it's easier to explain an idea, Shebenosef, that in addition to serving God personally, yesh lo gam et ha'acharayut liyot shliach. Therefore, and you can convince another Jew that not only should you serve God, but you should also tell other Jews. You should be at least a good example. Lashpia, to give over on others. Hechel mi b'nei beito, beginning with your household, then your friends, then your acquaintances. The call mi shehu yochol lagialim, and anyone that you can come in contact with and have a positive effect on. Ubezen nitfose biyoter b'yichud, and this it's added on especially Those people who had the merit that they actually saw in the physical world, they saw the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. The call of Vodasam and all their service of God in the 24 hours of the day, which is devoted to filling the mission, the job that the previous Rebbe put on each one of them, spreading out Torah, spreading out Judaism, spreading out the teachings of Hasidut, and to bring the future redemption. How much more so, when the emissaries from all the corners of the world, the Rebbe is speaking to his emissaries, right, are all gathered together in the Kines Shluchim, the Olami, in the how do you say, global convention of the emissaries of the Rebbe, the Shluchim, Asher Kines Let Tzadikim, it says that when Tzadikim get together, it is good for them and it's good for the world. So this, for sure, brings Hana'ah, true pleasure, true holy pleasure to them and to the world. Ha'olam, world, in the language of concealment and hiddenness. Ubafran, especially, this is a Kines Shluchim Olami. This is a global convention of all of the emissaries of Chabad. Shluchim, these are emissaries and nimseim, which are found in all of the corners of the world. Now it's even more so. Their service of God, their job is, mitbatet, is expressed in bittul hayelim, doing away with the concealment, the darkness of the world, and transforming it to goodliness and godliness. Ad sheyasa dira lo, until it becomes a dwelling for God in a way of unifying ma and ban, like a preparation for the redemption. I mean, a very interesting thing. If a person gives himself over to pleasures, so those people lose like 90% of their individuality. They become like everybody else, right? Alcoholics, they're 90% of them, and 90% of their personality is exactly like every other alcoholic. People who are addicted to drugs, they're almost 100% similar one to the other. Their desires, their longings, a little tiny bit, their personality shines through, a little tiny bit. And they're looking to destroy that also. They just want to take drugs. People are into crime. People are into cheating. They're almost exactly the same. They lose their personality. They don't even know that there is an alternative to being, addicted or whatever they are. They don't know there's anything else. It conquers their whole personality. I mean, it's like the same thing with this LGBT stuff. And the person, I am a lesbian. I am a. What do you mean? That's what you are. Say at least there's a thing you do, you like. No, I am. It is a march of, these are the homosexual march. We make a march. This is who we are. That's not who you are. It's true that this obsession has conquered 90% of your personality. So you think that's who you are, but you aren't. Moshiach is going to stop all these obsessions. He's going to stop all these the people are, I forget the word, I'm sorry. Anyway, he's going to do away with all these aggressions and obsessions and addictions. The people become addicted to power. They become addicted to the cellular phones. They lose their personalities. I remember once I was in Japan. I was in Japan for a while, and me and my wife, we traveled. My wife especially, wanted to travel around. So you go on like the train. They have these fast trains. Everyone is just glued to there's no human beings anymore. It's just everybody's glued to their things. They're like all the same, just sitting there with this thing in front of them. Right? I remember once I saw a cartoon that people are sitting in a bus stop, and a little kid says to his little child is sitting with his father, and he taps his father. His father's looking at his cellular phone. He taps his father, and he says, "Daddy, there's a strange man sitting here." there's a strange man sitting at the bus stop. What is it? Everyone is sitting there looking at their cellular phones, and he's just sitting there looking at the street, looking at looking at the street, thinking about something. That's weird. Something's wrong with that guy. Why isn't he looking? In other words, everybody's lost their personalities. The idea of Mashiach is that everyone will truly be unique. They'll truly show who their unique personality is. Everyone. And unique personalities come in the most small ways, but those are very meaningful. And this itself says, where you can see this, let's say you have a baby, right? And a baby, he laughs a little bit, 1 minute. Everybody laughs. This is, look what he did. Ooh, a little thing, he moved his eye like that. You see how he moved? Every little detail of a person is precious. You see it in children, but people, when they become, addicted to their own selfishness, so they lose their uniqueness. And the idea of Mashiach is to bring back the uniqueness of every human being, to deal with every unique situation in the world. And this are usually people who are, let's say, alcoholics, so they're just oblivious to the world. They're just, anesthetized to the world. They don't feel anything. So they don't have to interact with the world at all. They're just interacting with their own chemical change, whatever goes in their own confusion. That's what Mashiach comes to change. So says the Rebbe, that's the idea of uniting Ma and Ban, to unite the creator with the creation. Suddenly the world becomes healthy, and every Jew is an emissary of God to do this. And the Rebbe is like Moses was the big emissary, and he makes other emissaries that are united with him, and consequently, because he's united totally with what the Creator wants. Just like Eliezer was united with Abraham, and Abraham was united with God. And this itself, this is relevant to the Kenes HaShluchim, especially every year, the Shluchim convention every year, but this year especially, because this year is the Shlichus of Shalach na b'yad Tishalach. What Moses said at the burning bush to God, send the Mashiach, send the Mashiach. Dover la'il, like we said before, that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, the leader of our generation, said that we've already finished all of the work and all of the service we have to do. And what we have to do now, just be ready, be prepared. Amdu kulam holchem, hachem kulchem, stand prepared, all of you, to receive the face of Mashiach. The whole world in 1 second, it's all going to change. Like when Moses came and said, get ready, we're leaving. Kafisha roim zud, like we say many times, and this should be ma'orot ha'olam, that from the things that happen in the world, we can see many signs on the redemption. Like it says in Yalkut Shimoni, in one of the Midrash, it says, Higiyazman gulatchem. The Mashiach says, the time for your redemption has come. Why? Mizeh shemalchut migarot zo v'zo. And the fact that the nations of the world are all threatening one another. Ubafrat Medinat Aravim. That's what it says over there. Especially the Arab nations. Remember what the Rebbe, in the time of the Rebbe, this was Saddam Hussein. So Saddam Hussein, he decided to make a war against all the other Arab nations, and he attacked Qatar, right? Qatar, which I mean, now Qatar is making the problems for all the world, but nevertheless, he attacked Qatar apparently for no reason. He wanted to take it over, and then all the other nations all of a sudden they started arguing one with the other, especially what we see in these days. Shekama. The Shebama Shekona, that was called V'idat Hashalom, which was called the peace meetings. They made known Shemuchanim Levater Al Inyanim Laman Shalom. This is when Reagan met with, I think it was Gorbachev, was it, whatever it was, and they said that they're willing to stop making atomic weapons. And actually, it came out that at least they did. They said they were going to do it. But what really came out? Lo dubin v'lo yor. It was absolutely nothing. They just promised and it was all empty. We already saw in the previous year, which was Tafshin Nun Aleph, says Behosafa, in addition to this year, it says Teishanas Niflot Bo. Betocha Shazen Nase Hamahut Vatochen and Neshama Shalashana, that this was the year when, if you remember that the Gorbachev suddenly he said there's no more communism. That's it. We're dissolving the Iron Curtain. Everybody can go out. You can all come in, whatever you want. And Saddam Hussein shot all these missiles, and nothing happened. Right? Shot 39 missiles, and it brought whole buildings down in Israel, and no one was hurt. And the Rebbe said that that's the way it's going to be. So we can see how that the Mashiach is fighting the battles of God, and how Mashiach is going to win in many, many ways. Because of this, and it's going to be in a peaceful way. But nitzachon hu melashan gam lashan nitzichut. Nitzichut means eternal. Kashuri im agiloi shel netzach. Netzach means two things. It means victory, and it also means something that's eternal. Netzach. The word netzach, says the Rebbe, should be revealed this year, so the Rebbe, is nun, is the revelation of the 50th gate of understanding. Tzaddik is the 90th year. The Rebbe was now in his 90th year when he said this. 90th year. He was born in Taf Reish Samach Beit, right? And this was Nun Beit. So the Rebbe was 90 years old. And the Chet, Netzach, this is the revelation of the Mashiach. Mashiach, the Chet, which is, Mashiach is especially attached to the number 8. It says Mashiach will be one of the 8 anointed men. Says the Rebbe, that's of this year. Says the Rebbe, any second, Mashiach is supposed to arrive. This the Rebbe said 30 years ago, so 35 years ago almost. So if that was supposed to be then, how much more so now? Any second, the whole thing is going to reveal. The veil will be removed, and we'll see that God is really creating the world, and that everybody is really unique, and that everybody is really one with the Creator, that everybody in the world will be an emissary of the Creator of the universe. Well, Mizeh, we can understand that since all of the shluchim are already ready, and this is we've already finished spreading Torah in the world. And a long time ago, we have already finished the middle of the work of shlichus. In other words, we're just getting to the end. Says the Rebbe even more, we've already finished the shlichus, says the Rebbe. Our work is already finished. So here, again, this is what I said in the beginning of the class. You figured that the Rebbe would say, this is the last meeting, the Rebbe would say, our work is just beginning, and only you can do it. What did the Rebbe say? Everyone can do it, not only you. And the work is already finished. All the work is finished, says the Rebbe. Nevertheless, the fact is that, in fact, the redemption has not come. It's already finished, and it's ready to come any second, but still, we haven't released it from the factory. There must be something that we have to do to bring the future redemption. And what is it? What should we do? It says, it's known that in every generation, there is one person that's born from the tribe of Judah. So that's, of course, all the Rebbe's of Chabad from the tribe of Judah. In every generation is born one person who is fit to be the Mashiach of the Jewish people. One person. But where do we get this idea from? Let's see. 106, it says, in the Bartanura says, in Megillah Ruth, he says, Bartanura, one of the main explainers of the Torah. He says, every generation is born someone that is fit to be the Mashiach of that generation. A person, because of his righteousness, that he can be the redeemer of the Jewish people. Every generation, there has to be someone like that. And when there comes the proper time, God will appear to him, and he will send him. And this is according to what the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe said, that the Shliach Yachid, that the emissary, the only emissary of our generation, and the Mashiach, the only Mashiach of our generation, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Mashiach, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, again, here's this picture, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he is the emissary, the only real emissary of God in our generation, the Moses of our generation. He is the Mashiach of our generation. that we've already finished everything we have to do. So it's understood that Shematchil Litkayem, if so, we have certainly begun to fulfill what Moses requested at the burning bush. Shalach na biyat shalach, God send the Mashiach. This is the Shalichut, this is the one who he sent, was the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. He's already here. So if from this we can understand that all that's remaining for us to do is the Kabel Penei Mashiach Tzikenu B'Pol, to accept and receive the face of the Mashiach actually, and just start doing what the Rebbe says in order to do that we can do this and take all of the Jews out of the exile. That's what we have to do. What is the last finishing touches? This and a little bit more we're going to learn tomorrow. What is the connection? This we're going to learn, God willing, tomorrow. Good. So let us, yeah. So what is the Rebbe basically saying? He's saying Mashiach is already here. The work has already been done. Something unexplainably is separating from, opening the doors and letting everybody in. Something, what it is. Says the Rebbe, I don't know what it is. But it's the fact is that God exists. God has made us emissaries. The main emissary of our generation is the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Says the Rebbe, I'm just a continuation of the Rebbe. And I'm telling you, just have to do what the Rebbe says. Keep doing it. Any second now, everything has to change. And now a normal person could say, oh, come on. I mean, we've been saying this for 2,000 years. And it's true. That's right. It's a very good question. It's a very valid question. Right. And the answer is that we just have to have, that's the Jewish people, right? The Jewish people started off in Egypt. They thought they were never going to get out. And all of a sudden, whoop, it just flipped around, came Moses and the whole thing, they got out. And so it's going to be with us now. God willing, any second, the whole thing is going to flip around and the whole world will become healthy. It wouldn't take that much. It is just a change in attitude of all mankind. It's not such a big thing as going out of Egypt, but in a way, it's a much bigger thing. Because when they went out of Egypt, they didn't change themselves. So the changed people's personalities and priorities in life, even though that it's not as glorious and impressive, but it's much deeper and essential. And that's what's going to happen any second now. Okay.